Hello, everybody. This is Anton Antic and Maher Faraj. We are casting from virtual reality from the tool that is called BeyondReal, of which we happen to be founders and employees of. And with this one, we are starting a series of podcasts, series of news that is called News from BeyondReal. It's set in virtual reality. As we can see, we have a bunch of fun locations, which we are using for corporate meetings, for brainstormings, for planning marketing, for reviewing the pipeline. But also we decided, since it's fun, we will be doing a series of different interviews. We will be inviting different guests. We will be covering a bunch of topics, hopefully on a weekly basis. And we cordially invite you to subscribe to our YouTube channel. And eventually, we actually plan to start inviting you as viewers into the audience, either from virtual reality or from the web, because we have the ability to do both. And we really hope this will be a beginning of a long and exciting journey. So before we start today's sessions, let us do some introductions of who we are. Maher?
Yeah, so thank you, Anton. I'm Maher. I run the day-to-day business here at BeyondReal, and it's been a super exciting journey. Been in the tech space for close to 20 years, and this has really revolutionized how we work day to day. And it's really exciting to be here in virtual reality and get to experience this fully immersive experience where I can look up and see the sky. I can have different types of media solutions. I can interact with colleagues, with peers, with friends, with family. It's really a great time to be here. So I hope you enjoy. And yeah, I think so. So for today, we're going to be talking about one main topic. So our AI guru and specialist is going to be going over a couple of things.
All right. So, thank you. Thank you, Maher. And my name is Anton Antic. As I mentioned, I'm a co-founder and CEO of BeyondReal, but we're also working intensively on AI projects. And we decided that since all the hype is about AI these days, we will start our podcast with this topic. And today, we're going to discuss some of the limitations of what you probably know as AI and have experienced, things like ChatGPT and similar solutions. And we will also show you some of the things that are possible with a little bit more imagination, a little bit more fine-tuning, using the tools that we are building, among other things. All right, so let's start the conversation.
Yeah, sure. So, before we deep dive, maybe Anton, you can take a couple of steps back and explain how they sometimes say to like a 5-year-old, or give us kind of what is happening in the world of artificial intelligence, but also what are the basics of artificial intelligence and kind of that underlying infrastructure and where we've reached today.
Great question. Thank you, Maher. So yeah, actually AI is a fairly broad term, as you can imagine. People have called different things AI, and the research on the topic has been done from probably 1950s, so the 50s decade of the last century. But the breakthrough happened in 2000s already, when people discovered something that's called gradient descent, which allowed us to build what people know today as artificial neural networks. And basically, artificial neural networks, they tend to mimic a brain of a human or an animal to a certain extent. Of course, it's a very, very rough approximation. We have no idea what's going on in the real neuron. But surprisingly, even for this rough approximation, these artificial neural networks, they work quite well for different tasks. The revolution has probably started around 2015 or so, when people started building very good computer vision solutions. And as you know, if you own a Tesla or any modern vehicle, there are maybe not the full self-driving capabilities, but at least some sort of assistance that is based on the advances that have been done with artificial neural networks and computer vision. But today I want to talk about what all the hype is about, and this is something that's called large language models. These are also artificial neural networks with the specific architecture, so-called transformers. And basically what they do, again, on the surface is a very simple thing, but the results are nothing short of amazing. So we have some slides here. Basically, the way it works is that once you train your network and then you give it some sort of input, it predicts the output based on the probabilities of meeting a certain token, what they call, in the context that you give it. So basically, all it does, it transforms what you give it as an input into a certain output based on all the data it's been trained on. And surprisingly, it produces quite intelligible texts and quite knowledgeable answers to certain questions. But of course, it's not without its limitations. And the revolution has been driven primarily by OpenAI. ChatGPT is something you're probably all familiar with, but now the landscape is much, much bigger and a lot of interesting things are going on. And we can talk about some of those today as well.
Okay, interesting. So what would you say are the main limitations today on LLMs and companies like ChatGPT and OpenAI?
Thanks, Maher. That's a good follow-up. So once again, if you take a look at this slide, the way it happens is that once you train your network on some data, usually it's all the Wikipedia plus all the data that's publicly available. Because normally the idea was the more data we feed into the network, the better the results. It's not necessarily so, but that's the way it happens. Then on top of it, and the revolution that came with ChatGPT came with this small quadrant here that's called human feedback fine-tuning. And the way it was done is that for the network to actually answer your questions in the good human understandable format, it needed to be additionally trained with lots and lots and lots of human written examples. So they wrote something like hundreds of thousands of human written examples of questions and the answers that the human would provide. And this has fine-tuned these networks towards this chat format where you can actually have a conversation with it, not just transform the text. So that was some sort of a revolution, but once again, it's not without its limitations. And the main limitations is that once you train it on a certain set of data, there is nothing else you can do. It's not being updated automatically with the new data. So when you have a cutoff of the human knowledge, that's what this thing knows, nothing else. So there are different ways to work around it. Yeah, go ahead, Maher.
Yeah, no, sorry, please.
Yep, so as I was saying, different ways to work around it. One of the most popular and on which everybody pretty much is working right now quite a bit is so-called retrieval augmented generation. It's sort of a fancy term for finding a relevant context for the question that the user is asking and then giving it to the neural network as part of the context and part of the question. And then it provides much better answers that it would have based just on its training knowledge. And you have probably heard words such as neural networks hallucinate. And yeah, they definitely do. So if you just ask a trained neural network such as ChatGPT about some, real historical person, oftentimes it will invent certain facts. It's just the nature of the probabilistic structure of this network. But if you give it the context, which is exact and contains exact facts, it's much less likely to hallucinate and much more likely to give you a proper answer. So everybody's trying now, when they're building proper LLM-based solutions, they're trying to give so-called vector memory for this retrieval augmented generation so that we can give it the context that we have. For instance, our corporate data or some textbook that the network has not been trained on, etc., etc. All of it increases the quality of the answers that the networks are providing. So that's one example of the limitation and what we can do about it. Another very interesting example, and let me switch here to a different tab, is that there are lots of people who actually hope that by using the current architecture of LLMs, of neural networks, they will be able to create so-called artificial general intelligence. So something comparable to humans or even better than humans. Well, unfortunately, there is one subtle problem with these networks, which makes it all but impossible. And what I'm talking about is, again, all it does, it transforms the text you give it into the output text using some probabilities. It does not contain inside of it any factual representation of the world. And the best example to show it, let me just give it to you using our tool, which can work with different LLMs. Let's ask it, who is the mother of Tom Cruise? And let's see what we get as an answer. So as you can see, it gives the correct answer. The Tom Cruise's mother is Mary Lee Pfeiffer, and gives some additional facts. So any human, if you ask it the question, if you ask me, or if you ask Maher, or if you ask yourself the question after reading this, who is the son of Mary Lee Pfeiffer, you would correctly answer that it's Tom Cruise. But let's see what happens with this model. So same model, let's ask, who is the son of Mary Lee Pfeiffer? As you can see, the network has no idea. So it doesn't understand that if somebody is a son of somebody, then their mother is this somebody. There is no factual reasoning, it's just probabilistic. And the way it works is that the network was trained on a lot of data that contains facts that the mother of Tom Cruise is Mary Lee Pfeiffer. So it has learned it. It's very probable that it will give you this answer. But nobody ever talks about Tom Cruise as a son of Mary Lee Pfeiffer. Maybe like 2-3 paragraphs somewhere are written about it, but it's not enough for the network to learn the probabilities, learn the weights. So as you can see, it is just a transformer, as the architecture that they're called, that transforms the input text into output text using probabilities. But it does not have the factual picture of the world. And this is currently probably the biggest challenge in creating so-called real AGI, as I would say, even though there is a pretty big camp of people who think that if they throw more layers into artificial neural networks, it would resolve itself. But there is actually no reasons for us to think so. And this limitation is important. It creates lots of problems, but it does not mean that using the current level of technology, we can't create lots of cool stuff.
Amazing. So that's really cool, Anton. Thanks for sharing. And would you have maybe some more examples of how you're using Integral into other projects or other day-to-day stuff?
Yeah, sure. So basically, what we've been doing internally with our development team is we built a platform that uses not just ChatGPT, not just OpenAI models, but all the different models that are available in the market. So here's just a small sample of what is available, and they all have different peculiarities. But what's more important, they all have different costs. So ChatGPT is actually the most expensive model there is. So when you're building your own Copilot, or when you have a project inside your corporation which you would like to use to make your people more productive, you need to be cautious of the cost. And ideally, you want to build so-called multi-agent which combines different networks with different prompts, along with the ability to call actual functions, actual APIs, because another limitation of every neural network, every LLM, is that it has no hands. It cannot do anything. It can generate text, but it cannot send an email. It cannot search the web. It cannot read your pipeline in your CRM system. None of this is possible out of the box. So if you want to build something useful, you need what's called a multi-agent, where you have a pipeline of, here is the user request, then LLM is doing something with this request, then it generates an email, then it sends the actual email using the API of the email provider that you're using, etc., etc. So everything, all the revolution is currently about multi-agents. And there are some really cool stuff we are preparing. We'll be sharing as they come out. Actually, in BeyondReal very soon, or probably by the time this recording will see the light of day, it will already be available. You'll be able to experience some of this functionality of multi-agents and AI assistants as you use BeyondReal for your own needs. But I'll be happy to show you a couple of small demos here as well. So
cool.
So a couple
I find it really impressive that you're able to be in VR and also use your computer. That's pretty cool.
Yeah, that's something that we love about BeyondReal, and it will become even better in the future. All right. So one of the examples, it's a relatively simple example of this, of such a multi-agent, but at the same time, it does quite a useful thing for you. So what you can do is just enter a URL with your product description here, and then we press go, and it will generate its own understanding of your product. It will grab your logo in the meantime, and then it will generate the SWOT analysis, so strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, threats, and it will generate an opportunity plan for you. And of course, it will not be on the level of what McKinsey may have created for you, but at the same time, McKinsey costs roughly $1 million per one slide. And this is a very robust starting point. We have tested it on many products, on many product ideas. And I gotta say, just saves you time quite a bit. And what we are doing with BeyondReal and this type of multi-agent is actually, you will enter an URL with your product description, and we will create a dedicated room for you where you will have this generated SWOT analysis and the opportunity plan. And you can use this room absolutely free for your go-to-markets planning. And of course, this is just a starting point. And as you can see, here is the SWOT that it is generating. But then based on this information, based on the SWOT, and based on the opportunity plan, we will be adding more and more functionality that will help you run your business. For instance, using that, you can design an actual Facebook campaign or a Google campaign, where our assistant will design all the ads for you. It will design the visual drafts for you, and then you can just put them together, start your campaign, and adjust it as you go. Or alternatively, we will be able to generate the email sequences for your inside salespeople when a certain lead comes to you and you want to be sending certain emails to nurture them, etc., etc. All of it is coming up with this type of solution, and this is exactly what we were just talking about. This is the multi-agent where different networks with different prompts work together, and then they call certain APIs to actually do things for you. And that is where the real power comes from. You cannot really do it with ChatGPT alone, because you need to be able to read your information, you need to be able to generate responses to different prompts, etc., etc. And that's what we believe is the future. And let's wait a bit and give it some time to finish. Давайте там вырежем, что она дегенерирует. So what you're also seeing here is that we're actually creating the SWOT plan in 2 iterations. And this is one of the best practices when you work with any of the LLMs. You create something, a draft, Then you use another agent to critique this draft, to ask it how it can be improved. And then you generate what you want to generate again. This improves quality significantly. So as you can see, there is many more strength is in the second iteration, and there is more details on opportunities and threats as well. And then eventually, using this data, as discussed, it actually generates the opportunity plan for you with some description, with potential estimation of the market size, with step-by-step plan and approximate resources that are required. So you can take a look at what we have here for BeyondReal, and you're welcome to experiment with your products, or not just your products, but with your product ideas, because this assistant also works not just with the ready-made websites, but you can enter a description of your product idea, and it will guide you through the SWOT and through opportunity plan. And this way, you can have a partner that helps you brainstorm your new product ideas or your new startup idea, etc., etc. So this is just one demo of what is possible and what we are integrating also in our tools. Let me show you another fun demo, which we will be releasing quite shortly as well. This is a murder mystery game. And
Nice.
okay, so this is another fun example. It's sort of a rough test stage right now. And as mentioned, we're going to be issuing as well, because these LLMs are quite good at doing different games. So here's an example of a very simple multi-agent where one agent generates a setting for murder mystery, where it happened, who killed who, what are the evidence, what are the persons of interest, a little bit on their motivation. So we sort of set up the scene, and then another agent actually runs the game for you. And your goal is obviously to find the murderer. So as you can see, it actually tries to be quite moody, and this is something like an interactive novel almost. I have played through a bunch of this. I have played with my son. I have played with my parents. Everybody loves it. So as you can see, it describes where the crime took place, who is the victim, and then a certain description of the scene. And then our goal is to find who's responsible. So let's say, okay, are there any? So as you can see, it says that there are no direct witnesses, but at the same time, there are certain persons of interests who you may want to interview as a detective to find out some additional clues. Or you can expect the clues as well. So for instance, let's say we want to talk to the cook, Margaret. Let's talk to Margaret. And then it describes where we find her in the kitchen. Her hands are
Nice.
dusted with flour. So it sets up the scene, and it actually talks in a very interesting, book-like way for you. Miss O'Donnell, you begin. I understand this must be a difficult time. So it goes through some dialogue. You can ask the questions, you can examine the clues, and then once again, your goal is to find who's the murderer. So this is something that's fun for everybody, and this is almost endless, because you can generate any type of setting. You can try to find the murder mystery on Mars in 2125 or whatever. And it's just a never-ending source of fun, which you can also publish as a novel, for instance, if you like. So this is just another example of what's possible with this multi-agent. Right. Okay, so I hope you have enjoyed what we had to talk to you about today.
Thank you. That was really interesting. Thank you, Anton. It's really exciting to see, at least for me personally, all of the integration. So being able to have the benefits of spatial computing, of XR and VR and AR, but also incorporate the latest innovations in artificial intelligence into this workspace, that is really fascinating. So I know we're even at the tip of the iceberg. So I'm excited to see what's next.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks, Maher. And once again,
Thank
guys, please join our channel right here, subscribe. We will be doing more and more of this on different topics. We'll be inviting different guests. Actually, if you have an idea that you want to talk to us about and you have a VR device, we are more than open to do that as well. So please drop us a note. We'll consider, we'll talk to you. And we just want to start making sure we're building an audience of people who are interested in virtual reality, who are interested in tech, in business, and this way we can start and build this community all together.